Hello. So I look a little bit rough, but this is just sort of, I woke up and I wanted to make a continuation of yesterday's video. This isn't really scripted or planned or anything. I know that sounds stupid that any of my stuff is scripted or planned, but I try to have an objective when I do these things because I don't do these things very often. What I made yesterday was start a production company, and I don't know that I covered everything I wanted to cover in the video. I haven't actually rewatched it yet. But in case I haven't, let me start with this point. We're at a time in our history where the best thing we do is inspire. We have built a ton of technology and infrastructure for sharing our inspirations. Good or bad, that's where our infrastructure is at right now. The peak of our technology is in sharing our ideas. If you want to take skills and focus and talents that we search for and help to grow that are built for this old system that I talk about replacing, if you want to take those that are built for this and use them, utilize them, recruit from among them to build something that will actually work, there are things we need to inspire to be done because there are technologies that I can see using that just don't exist, like topographical technology that gathers the information about what is in a region. What is that region made of? Is it sedimentary stone? Is there a shit ton of caves underneath? Is it granite? Did some waste company 10 years ago sneak in a bunch of garbage into a big cave system nobody was aware of? We need to know what is there. Because before we start a large scale project, it would be good to know what water is there. Are there multiple rivers in the area? Can their directionality be changed? If we want to build these big structures that are used for cleaning the environment and powering the people that live there, feeding the people that live there, housing the people that live there, the people that are working to make this world better, we need to have data like that. And the images I see for how we collect that data just does not exist. But we can show that because the technology to inspire its creation exists. Sci-fi has been doing this for as long as I've been alive. If I tell you that, because I've said in other videos that we are really good at blowing things up. Our military is excellent when it comes to winning wars. We can get the destruction down pat. That's not a problem. It's what comes after the fact. If we can build in such a way that we inspire a new form of military, something that is specifically built using the tools we have now to build our infrastructure, maintain our infrastructure, inspire the people that come next to do what they can see. Maybe one day there comes a time 50 years from now that our military doesn't go in to blow things up. Our military is sought out because of how they build things after the fact. We live in a time where actually building that military is very difficult because we don't have the right inspiration for that. We haven't reached the right minds. Like, I can tell you that we should build this kind of military, but I can't tell you how to write the code for it. I need to give you my vision. That vision has to be received by somebody who has that talent, who has that gift, who has that insight. Maybe they're around, but they just don't know what it is their talent can be good for. We've built a world where only specific talents are good for what our society thinks it needs. And the rest, it's not a terrible life, but we could be doing it better. There's a lot of technology that does exist that is disparate. It's split up among many different patent holders or buried by patent holders that need to be brought out, combined, and used in tandem. And we need to be able to show that. If you're going to build a world like this, you have to overcome the system that is in place in the region you are building it in, which means, well, for the United States, that's the biggest obstacle is graph. How many people want a piece of the money that you're spending to do your project? If you start with a production company, you can expose that, all of that graph and how it gets used and why it's in place in the first place. You can show that if graph is in place, its functionality can be utilized in a better way. Or you can just rip it a new one. I have done build a tech company, and now I am doing build a production company. That's the technology, that's the inspiration. I plan to build a development company where the goal is to build the infrastructure that we need by supporting ourselves, not by supporting the few of ourselves, but by supporting all of us. I guess to me, when I think about how we'd have to start this, I talked about in the last one, I talked about think about castles as opposed to cities and towns. Like if my town where I live was designed as a castle, what would the surrounding region of this town look like? What would that castle look like? What would its form and function be? Because right now we build cities in places where it makes sense to build cities. I imagine that one day if we're building castles like the ones I envision, they will be built in specific places to do specific functions. What does it look like when you build the castle that its functionality is to reverse desertification? All its surrounding resources are built and utilized to reverse desertification. Asking what that looks like is like asking what the forest would look like if it was the forest that decomposed New York City, biodegraded New York City. I can't show all of these visions because I cannot comprehend all of them. I can't see them all. My idea needs to reach people that can see their visions. We need that diversity. We need that interconnectedness that reinforces itself. Because if you just stand alone on ego or wealth, this is the world you function in. The world I want us to build is not that. Legacy in this world is built on luck, wealth, a lot of heinous acts, things that we have to regret once we understand what it is that we've actually done. That needs to be flipped on its head. All of us probably watch certain content creators that see what they see in the world that resonates with us when they tell us about it. For me, one of those is John Oliver. If I was to take just his example, I would like to take whatever it is he's ever talked about on whether it's housing or prison or Boeing, whatever, use those as examples for how we fix the world that we live in. I would like to completely redo how we get our news, because what is functional of the news we get is only there because that is what we want. They are owned by corporations. Corporations are in place to make money. To make money, they have to sell a product that we want. So all of our news, regardless of how crazy it may be making our world that we live in, is what we want. because it wouldn't make them money if it wasn't what we want. We have to want something else. One of the problems that is making us all go so crazy is that all of the things that we gather into our consciousness is stuff that we want. It's not stuff that we need. There has to, see, we can't right now at this point in our history, we can't make a news anchor like the ones we used to have that would tell you the news and just say that is how it is. Because there are plenty of people that will think that that person is lying because he's making money for that particular media engine. It has no credibility anymore. So if you want to change that, you have to change the dynamic of what that media outlet is functioning for. If that media outlet is functioning for us and the world we are trying to building, if all the revenue from that is going into the world that we are trying to build as opposed to a handful of people's pockets and portfolios, you have a better chance or a better environment in which to build services that give us what we need, not just what we selfishly want. We want them so selfishly that we've forgotten that that is how it functions. We get what we want because giving us what we want makes them money. They don't have to make you crazy. Getting what you want is enough to make you crazy. See, this is what happens when I don't have a clear focus that I'm trying to achieve. It's just me ranting. How do you build a new military and build it in such a way that it is the example for the world? Because our example of a military for the world is spend, 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 spend. Recruit. We don't even recruit by ideology anymore. We recruit by college benefits. And those college benefits are becoming less and less valuable because of the way we're building our society. How do I talk to the general or admiral that has the resources and insight to build this new military? I don't even speak the same language as that person. How do I get them to see that the military they're building in my world is one that people actually want to be involved with? People want to, because they do now. People want to be involved with it now. I have two sons that are both military. But they're seeking, I'm seeking to build a different world. I'm seeking to show how that is possible. I can't do it by drafting military plans and structure. I need to find the people that can, that agree with me or can at least see my vision, and they can do that kind of work. What would it take to build a world where anything we see that is, like Boeing is a good example. We see these structures that are built as profit generation, and Boeing is built on filling a need, which is air travel, which has taken off in the last century. But at the same time, how much of it is used as graft? How much of the money that we give these companies in our taxes is just redistributed to the people who made that possible via incentives like stock incentives and shareholder incentives? How are the shareholders of these companies, how influential are they in the amount of money that they get and then thus get back through these shareholder freaking whatevers? That is the world we need to flip on its head. That is the world that is built by the few, by inspiring the many, by just giving them everything they want or think they want. And really, it seems like the vast majority of us want something to bitch about. Not be proactive and create the new thing. Just bitch about the thing that is there. That is something I need to flip on its head too. But you can only do that by showing an example of it. And that's why I like the idea of the production company. If it were me right now and I was starting this project, I would build the tech company, the production company, and the development company all together as a trifecta and build from there. Build them honestly so that it can be shared with the world that this is exactly what we're trying to do. If you want to invest in what we're trying to do, invest in us. Because I think it's a limited window of opportunity. Maybe it's not as limited as I see it, and maybe it's far more limited than I see it. But if you were going to take the infrastructure and goals of an old world, the focus of an old world, and build the new world, you have a few opportunities that really can grow fast, because there are all these weaknesses, these vulnerabilities in this old system. Like, if I did something like gaming, I'm a gamer, big shock, right? If I did something like gaming, all of these games are meant to freaking just winnow down your bank account so that you can continue to play to feed this dopamine fix that you're so used to getting. If you flip that on its head, one time is all it takes. Take a good product, flip it on its head, and immediately that product could take off just for the fact that it's cheaper. I don't know about any other gamers that may watch this, but are you a little bit sick of what they actually expect you to pay just to play a game these days? And they've said that we should get used to the idea that we never will own the actual games that we play. Like, we used to have discs. I haven't had a disc in years, so of course, we never really will own the intellectual property or a copy of it. That's not something we actually buy anymore. But there are all these little in almost every market there is that one little niche where if you just flipped it on its head, it could be massively popular, and if the profits from it are used to grow collectively as opposed to individually, how many times can you do that? You may be able to do it in every single market with every kind of product there is, but you can't replicate that indefinitely. That is not sustainable, because eventually you will have changed the markets, which is the goal. Remember, you have to go there incrementally. You can't break down a system like the one we've had for thousands of years overnight. You have to break it down piece by piece, find those vulnerabilities that could be turned into strengths, and continue to do that. But once you've done that to a certain point, you can't keep doing that. You need to make the product that is generated by doing that into something that is inspirational and wants people around the world to do it. In other words, the profit for the beginning can be used by taking advantage of the old system. But eventually that old system, which we want to break, will be broken, and you need to make the product, technology, inspiration that is created out of breaking that system into something that is sustainable going forward. To replace the old system, you have to build a new system that works, prove it, inspire it into people's minds so that they want to replicate it, and go forward. I think the production company would be essential for like a trinity of organizations, like production, development, technology. When I think about how I would start this, I think about building this project that's just, I've given all these dimensions, and I've given all these numbers for what it would cost, and that isn't my strength. My strength isn't in the accounting of it. It isn't in the minutia of it. We need people that do that is their talent and gift. But when I think about it, I think about something about the size of an average United States county of a state. that is either including or adjacent to a major population center. Because what we have in our current society in major population centers is a great contrast between those that can afford to be there and those that can't afford to be there. What if, say, I don't know, Milwaukee or Green Bay or any major population center in the Midwest had the equivalent of a county around it that was meant to alleviate the suffering of the place where the project is and places adjacent to it. Because if you can successfully rehabilitate an area that large and make it profitable and then over profitable, in order for it to succeed, it has to not only satisfy the needs and goals of the people that live there, but it has to show a positive impact on the areas that surround it. Because you don't want it to just stop there. You need to be able to make this so that it inspires other people who are not already part of the project. And if inspiring comes down to nothing more than over farming good food as opposed to corn every freaking where in the country, and just feeding the people that can't afford to feed themselves, from the homeless to the middle class. So you no longer have to go and spend enormous exorbitant prices to buy good food, because you've got plenty of content creators out there telling you what is wrong with our food supply, but no plan to deal with it. Certainly no plan that does it painlessly. They're all things that would just ruin the infrastructure of the people that make money off of it. In order to take the power out of that structure, you have to demonstrate that the structure you are proposing is viable and has benefits. So if you built this and utilized it to enhance the lives of everybody that's in it and surrounds it, and just continue on that in that way, I think that's where the inspiration comes from. That's where my ideas reach another's mind. That mind goes, I know what you can do there. That mind reaches other minds. That's the growth model you're looking for. Right now, that growth model is in effect. It's just feeding you garbage, because garbage is what we want. Yeah, unscripted rant. That's what this is. But they gave me a 4-day weekend, and I have taken advantage of it. I think you have to somehow also inspire that. There is real benefit to actually working hard. And those benefits aren't properly discussed. They aren't. There's nobody inspiring you to actually find hard work that inspires and helps you stay healthy, helps you stay focused. It's always about what it is we want. We want new cars, new clothes, better houses. Quite frankly, what we want is shit. It's short-sighted, and it is not as good as what we could be building. I've said before, and I'll just say it again, I don't think that the people with the resources in this world understand the crappy way in which they're living and how much better it could be to have crappy possessions. And I'm calling Mercedes and all these things crappy possessions because they don't make sense. They make sense in this system because this system is only about what you want. And a lot of people really want to be better than everybody else. That's bullshit because, for one, at its base level, it's untrue. In this system, people really are better than others because the skills and abilities and talents they have are better for this system. And this system sucks. So technically speaking, the people that are better than everybody else, since if you take it at face value that they actually are equal, then what they're better at is performing in a system that is meant to just keep us happy and consuming. If you were to flip that on its head, they're really not better at us at the things that we need to make this world better. Those people, oh, maybe I'm wrong about that. Generalizations are always dangerous, and I'm not going off of I didn't meditate on this last night. I just slept, woke up, and I'm talking shit. So take it with a grain of salt, right? I don't think that we inspire the things that we need to build the new world. I think we inspire the things that are needed to keep us happily beating each other up with money and BS achievements. Meanwhile, everything we build continues to go into this. I've been a construction worker all my life. And when I watch old movies, I see things that are built the way I remember them being built. Like, I don't know, maybe there's an excessive amount of woodwork in a house or something. Maybe I can watch and see the way the structures are built, and I'll take it for what it is. It's television, or it's a lot of it's green screen now. So now when you talk about Disney inspiring through the green screens, come on. But that's a different. When I watch old things, I see how things are built and how they were built so much differently back when I started in this trade. As opposed to now, they're just. And we can't, if we just keep continuing down this road, always going to have to increase our economy. In order for our economy to function, it has to continuously grow, which means we have to keep doing this bullshit again and again and again on bigger and bigger and bigger scales. We know that this is going to fail. We know that already the predictive models, if we want to change the world, are really crappy things we have to do to each other. We need a different model. I think I've got one. Anyways, have a good weekend. Thank you for your time. Actually, no, I want to say something else. See, when I picture building this, one of the problems I have that I have to overcome, and that in that case, anybody who seeks to build this new world will have these same problems to overcome. I'm talking about vast swaths of real estate. And people already live there. See, one of the problems in my mind is if we are building this new world, which means that the power generation, the food generation, the infrastructure generation, how do we keep it safe from the people that live on the periphery? The only way I can see to keep it safe is to be doing it in such a way that inspires them as well. When I picture it, see, my consciousness has grown up in a time frame where if I was to tell this story in television or movie format, I would show the plight of the people that live there, like the farmers that live there, the people who have houses, people who just live and work in those areas. And I would show that there's this big plight coming that's going to just wreck everything that they've worked their whole lives for. Because that's what this system has been so far. I remember when we lost a war in the United States. And it wasn't a military conflict. It was a war for how farming was done. We used to have all these homesteaders and all these farms, family farms that went back generations, and all of those things were lost in my early life. Well, many of them were lost. We did concerts for it. We did tried to raise awareness for, but that battle ended up being lost. And it needed to be lost because our economy needed to grow a shit ton of corn, apparently. And that's what we do now. We lost that battle. We lost all of those individual farms and communities. And now we farm a shit ton of corn that is ruining our environment. And we use it. Okay, we feed cattle, we make fuel. You know, most of that corn isn't even really edible, or if it is edible, it's not a pleasure to eat for us because we've changed it in such a way that it only performs its specific function. And its specific function is certainly not built in such a way that it cares for the things that it's being used on. Like the cows that we feed corn to would be dead anyway if we didn't slaughter them because of how we've raised and fed them. It's cruel from the beginning to the end. And it's only there and that way because it is what we want. They couldn't get away with it otherwise. When you see the outrage, when you see the protests, when you see the people saying, please don't let this happen to our livelihoods, it doesn't have enough impact because in the end, it is doing exactly what everybody who isn't directly impacted by it wants. It is only profitable because we desire it. If you still want to function in that world where you make all that money because you give people what they desire, we need to change what people desire. And I guess that's happening. I mean, it's happening, but at the same time, the opposing side has this easy argument of, well, you want to eat better, but eating better costs a freaking ton, or will make it cost a ton, or it already costs too much, so that's an easy example we can use. How can we exacerbate that situation so that people eat our sugar? It's crucial to understand that it only functions well that way because it serves us. We want it. And we have no example of how else it could be done. Because all of those wars have already been lost. There's already a Walmart everywhere they want a fucking Walmart. There's already corporation farms. There's already... like the books when I was a kid talked about the big farms all coming to wheedle out all the little farms. But that battle's already happened and lost. To reverse the damage that we've caused by our desires and avarice and greed, we need to build a system that inspires that change. And it has to be profitable because it has to be protected. See, in this world, in the system you're trying to take over, if you're not profitable, you are not protected. You are vulnerable. So it has to be built in a way that its vulnerabilities are turned to strengths. I think a production company at the core of starting something like this is crucial. And there needs to be that element that I use, that honor. Because when it's only done for profit, when it's just manipulation and on the surface, like, I just go out and I show you this and I'm trying to be righteous, and you see that I'm trying to be righteous, but really I'm only being greedy, and everything will fold because once my greed has been satisfied, if that's possible, I don't give a fuck anymore, and I just swan off to wherever the hell I plan to going off to. That's the system we use now. That's why nothing sustainable gets built for the long term, because we don't have that integrity. We need to inspire that integrity. If you want somebody who's already wealthy and powerful to look at a system in which they will be less wealthy and less powerful and actually desire to live in it, you have to show why. Why should I, if I'm a wealthy and powerful individual, why should I help this project? Why should I help this become a reality? That's the inspiration you need to show. All right, I've talked. All right, good. Maybe I'm done. Let me take a shot at it. If somehow, some way, somebody who is incredibly successful and wealthy and powerful in this system that I want to break, what incentivizes you to be in the beginning of this? Why should you risk your lifestyle, everything you've worked for? First of all, I don't think that you should do it if it's a risk. I would like to be the person that inspires that people that have everything are inspired to give it away in order to build a new world. That is beautiful. But at the same time, it's a vulnerability, because if it fails, because too many people have their freaking ideologies thrown at this thing, too many people are at risk. That vulnerability can be exposed to the rest of the world, because that's what we like to see too. We like to see people fail. But if you succeed, understand that we have this thing called history. 1,000 years from now, people are going to be looking at this time in our history, and you think that they're going to be looking at things like our political leaders of this time and all that crap. They're not going to be looking at that. They're going to be looking at the larger societal functions and dysfunctions. And the people that stand out are going to be the people that destroyed it or created a lot of destruction, or the people that helped to heal it. People like Elon Musk or Donald Trump or all these people are barely going to be footnotes in history 1,000 years from now, because they're operating in a system that has been operating for thousands of years. The historical view will just be the crap. If you want to be successful in the next big thing, if you want to be a part of that, I can't guarantee that it is your name that will live on forever, but I need to inspire you to build this. We've had enough of that for thousands of years, the system we're in now. Thousands of years. It's not new. We're just the newest players. Look at what you have to be gained from a legacy perspective. I think that the people alive right now in my generation and the ones surrounding it don't understand how they're going to be remembered. They don't understand that this is not new. What we're doing right now is not new. We need something different for the future, and we all know that. There are divisions that exist today that will be remembered. How much more legacy is there in trying to build the new world now? And trying to show or inspire how that new world could be built now? In the long term, people like Bill Gates will be remembered because they brought us something that has changed the world. Regardless of what you think about those people, regardless of what you think their impact has been, they will be remembered because they brought something new that changed everything. Google, Gates, Amazon. But the real legacy is there for the grabbing. It's right here. The tools are all here. The ideas are right here. How much more powerful legacy is available to you right now? than there has ever been available. King Tutankhamun never had available to him the kind of legacy that is available to us right now. And they left, I'm not an Egyptologist, but they left us pyramids that we still are in awe of today. We build our cities with a good view of because of the inspiration. How much legacy is there for the grabbing right now? Instead, we get people who have legacy because they just feed us garbage, and we lap it up because we really love garbage. What do you want? If I have somehow reached somebody whose real goal in this life is legacy, because they already have the money, they already have the power, they already have the influence, what you're thinking about is legacy. How much is available to you right now? How much has been available up until now? And look at the magnitude of what there is right now. To be at the time in history when we know what we need to know, we can measure what we need to measure, we can build what we need to build, and we can inspire the things that we don't know we need yet. That's where we are in history. I suppose there's one other subject that historically has gotten in our way from doing these things, and this is one of the reasons I have focused on it. I have tried to focus on understanding consciousness from both the evolutionary way and the way that is faith. And I've told you already, I'm fairly certain there's a large amount of faith in the evolutionary way. I've seen the religion that is macroevolution. So I've tried to point out that whether consciousness is created or evolved, it is the product of us or God. It is the product of us if it's evolved, a creator if it's been created. Either way, it is the work product, our consciousness and the growth of it. I've tried to lay it out in such a way that both sides can identify and agree with each other and move together with common purpose. Imagine if in the stories produced by this production company, we can finally show that all of these things that have divided us before can be used to unify us. And we don't need Deus ex machina to do it. We don't need external influences to unite us. We could do that all on our own, just with what we have available now. I'm more of the higher power bend. I believe that there is a higher power beyond us that has interest in what we do. It doesn't mean you have to be. That is my perspective. That is what I build on. But it doesn't need to be an argument. Especially because most of the arguments we've had so far to this date have been the same arguments from not even different sides. Just barking at each other. Because we like that too. We like the idea that we can identify with the person who's barking what we agree to bark with. We like it when they get a good jab or make a good point or clearly win that argument. We like it when the other side fails and is embarrassed and is just, look, we just totally own that guy. We are superior. We enjoy that shit. Okay, so I've tried to end this like 3 times. All right, that's enough of my ranting for today. Thank you for your patience. Hopefully some part of it helps.